Hello, and welcome to today's webinar From Data Capture to Decisions, the Future of AIDC and AI-Driven Retail. I'm Bethany Dean, the Media and Communications Manager here at AIM. Before we get started, I wanted to give a brief overview of AIM. AIM is the Industry Association for Automatic Identification and Data Capture Technologies. We serve as a hub for quality resources covering all types of barcode, RFID, and mobile computing information. We also foster new auto ID innovations that stimulate market growth. We encourage you to get involved. If you would like additional information, you can reach out to us at info@aimglobal.org. And on the next slide here, we're going to go over AIM's antitrust policy. It is the policy of AIM to conduct its operations in strict compliance with the antitrust laws. No AIM activity shall even create the appearance of a violation or the spirit of the antitrust laws. And then a few other housekeeping notes. All registrants are muted upon entering the webinar, but we still want you to participate. To send a question, you can select the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. Also, a recording of the webinar will be available in the coming days to those that have registered. And with that, I would like to turn it over to today's moderator, Andre Avila from Honeywell.
Thank you, Bethany. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion on retail's execution-driven era. So thank you also for AIM to be open to share this discussion about the trends that we are facing in the industry, but also with this conversation that we are planning to have with Kelly and Tom. I am Andres Avila. I am the Retail Global Marketing Leader for Honeywell Productivity Solutions and Services, really focused on delivering this outcomes in terms of better and accurate solutions for data capturing. And with that, today I am with Kelly and with Tom from PIC and Maxim. So with that, let's have a quick intro and a quick description for your company with these distinguished marketing or market experts. To help us to explore how the fusion of AI, automation, and real-time data is reshaping productivity, accuracy, and resilience in retail operations. So please, let's begin with some brief introduction. So Kelly, you go first. Thank you.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Berneisen from Peak Technologies. With about, it's sad to say, I've been doing this for a minute or two, about 2 decades of experience in the AIDC world, more recently focused on RFID personally and thermal print. At Peak Technologies, we are a system integrator. So what does that mean? So in the retail ecosystem, Peak brings about 30 plus years of experience to connect hardware, software, managed services, and labeling to serve as that trusted layer for your ecosystem being powered by AI into the future, ensuring that high quality data capture is really on the edge of resilience and accuracy.
Great, Kelly. Yeah, nice background in terms of this AIDC industry that is changing every time. So Tom.
Excellent. Well, Kelly, it's going to be hard to follow, but my name is Tom Willicke. I represent Maxim Label and Packaging. We're a global player in the RFID label and packaging space. My background is computer information systems with a strong focus on data management, IDA level IED, and how these elements integrate seamlessly into an ecosystem. I was asked today to share some of the practical insights into AIDC that we've met along our way, but especially how AI and data capture complement each other. And this is where the technologies intersect and create real value. That's what I hope to discuss today with you guys.
So yeah, that's a perfect stage, and with that, let's start with our first talks around this, the purpose of this webinar. So let me just share one important statistics I found in the market. So according with the recent industry reports, global retail technology investments grew by 14% in 2025, with data accuracy cited as the top driver for operational improvement. So in that, AIDC is increasingly recognized as the backbone of reliable AI applications, enabling retailers to make smarter decisions and getting confidence from the market as well. So we've moved past the high phase of AI. We are just in the execution side of AI. Today, retail is driving this. Retail is about execution. AI is a brain, but it's blind without a nervous system. That's where AIDC technology, barcoding, RFID, sensors, all the technologies that we provide comes in. It provides the high fidelity data that makes AI actually works. So with that, I have the first question for you, Tom, and it's just regarding this data accuracy. Why is data accuracy so critical for retail organizations today?
Well, I think it's not just critical. It's either you're there or you're not. We've moved to so many automated systems that if your data capture is incorrect, that means you're making decisions based on wrong data. That tends to create a domino effect, and at the end, you basically stop using the automated triggers that you were using previously to do anything else in the supply chain. So basically, it breaks the supply chain in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And we have a lot of opportunities on this because the data accuracy is becoming part of the of the conversation behind AI. So having this data high quality and also having this reliability in the data that we currently have in the processes for the different businesses in different verticals, not only retail, but also in supply chain, in other verticals, we are seeing this as a part of the AI conversation. And with this strategic context, let's go deeper into how data accuracy is driving retail decision making, especially as we saw maybe several of our attendants also were in NRF 2026. So we had the opportunity to interact and discuss the most important topics that our industry is facing. And with that, NRF is carrying several like key messages in the market. Data accuracy was a recurring theme, underpinning both operational excellence and customer trust as a part of the benefits we have with getting this data accuracy part. But also NRF as organizations reported that 62% of retailers are investing in unified ecosystems. They are trying to break these data silos, with AIDC playing a key role in fraud detection, for example, and predictive analytics. That would be some of the drivers that the retail industry is facing right now. So loss prevention, for example, shrink, is now a billion-dollar problem. High quality data is the primary weapon against it. And real-time data is now a standard expectation for competitive retail operations. Having everything on the stage, on the place, unified ecosystems streamline processes and improve transparency. That is an important part of the benefits of AIDC industry. And with that, I would like Kelly to ask you something. How is AIDC being used for fraud detection and predictive decision making from your side?
So AIDC, especially, with the innovation of RFID and AI, has really become more robust. We're seeing use cases for fraud detection at the store level, understanding actual items being either lost, stolen, walking out the front door, walking out the side door. What are those actual items where in the past it was maybe a department, but AIDC and AI gets you down to that item level. And so then actions can be taken on that specific use case, right? So it's those pretty shiny red shoes are always getting stolen. And so retailers can make decisions on where those are placed in the store for protection, or maybe behind a screen or a cage or in some way. Very precise decisions can be made now, where before, again, it was just a department and you'll see whole departments locked down. And so from a customer facing standpoint, you're walking into the store and everything's locked down. That's not a good look. And so now retailers can make it more aesthetically pleasing to the customer, right? So that's a simple use case, but then you're also understanding where that shrinkage is happening. We've heard use cases of, they thought it was going out the front door, and we find out, big box retailer, and it's going out the side door. So we all know what that means, right? So it's somebody internally taking that out that side door. So that kind of information, as well as from a fraud, is it real? We have so many retailers out there that specialize in markdown product. Is this really a Nike? Is this really a Prada? Using RFID and AIDC and AI to determine that.
And
For
just
sure.
to complement what Kelly said, that aspect of actually understanding what it is we're looking at is one, but you also have context. So, and that's exactly what Kelly's talking about, that if we can lay over some sort of a analytics that will say, okay, this is a label, we know what the label is, it's IED'd as this product, but actually someone just caught it on a reader coming from the back of the store. So obviously the context becomes different because now it's not a EPC that was read walking into the store and the system goes, oh, okay, someone's doing a return, or there's a pattern that we can anticipate. If someone's reading it from the back, obviously it's a different event. That means that the context puts that label in a different sort of trigger mode, if that helps.
Yeah, the other thing is that we are not facing just shrinkage in the shop floor area. We are facing it in several parts of the supply chain. So with that, having this traceability and this visibility across all the technologies that we have available in the AIDC industry would help us to control this loss prevention. And this is becoming also into an opportunity for us, especially in this AI era, where everything would be quick and also in a real time. So yeah, for that reason, I would like to ask you, and thank you for all the ones that sent us the questions in advance in the registration form. We received some good questions, and we included some as a part of this conversation. So the first question that I have for you both, for Kelly, Tom, and I also try to respond is, what role can AI play in promoting and enforcing industry standards across retail, supply chain, and product identification systems?
Kelly, would you like to go first?
It's a big ask, right? So
Yeah.
certainly there's a lot of
But an important one.
It's a very important one. We live in standards long before AI came around, right? So AIDC, we insist on actual standards and then pull in RFID. If you don't have standards out there, then we like to say it's a little bit of the Wild West, and we don't have consistency. And for AI to work, it needs consistency and it needs clean data. The old adage, Tom, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times: garbage in, garbage out. So promoting standards throughout the industry will be vital for the success of AI.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, we are living in an ecosystem that everything needs to be connected. So with that, all this, from printing to the solutions that we provide, from the standards, I would say we need everything working in place to get the best output of these AI developments. If not, garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, I totally agree. So guys, building on this NRF trends that we saw, let's turn our attention to our second event in the year, that was EuroShop 2026 in Düsseldorf in Germany last February, where we saw other trends that are facing the European market, but also the globe. And with that, executing is also part of the conversation in the European region, retail execution, but also precision has taken center stage. So crossing the Atlantic to EuroShop, the focus shifts into operational resilience and the European labor shortages that we are facing in that part. I think this would be something that we can also see in other parts of the world, but labor shortages is part of the issues and pain points that retailers and other verticals are doing right now. So in Europe, 70% of retailers are reporting that automation and AIDC have reduced operational disruptions by up to 25%. So with that, European retail is leading not only in this part of automation, but also in social responsibility in ESG and digital product passports. That was part of our conversation in the last question. So labels now carry a product's entire lifecycle data. And with that, Tom, I have this question for you, and thank you for helping me with the next slide. So with these new European regulations that are changing a lot the supply chain scenario, but also the standardization that we have globally, how is the smart label becoming a business requirement rather than an option?
Well, I think it's there's a number of things that are causing this. First of all, predominantly a label back in the day was just a barcode at SKU level, mainly done for price purposes, so that at point of sale, it would ring up as the price. It didn't really know whether it was shirt 3 of 700, what color, size, etc. Now, smart labels are becoming, well, an essential piece, not only because of that combination that you have where you connect NFC and UHF together, but also the type of data and the duration of time that you're storing this data. Before, it used to be that as soon as the product left the door at a brick and mortar or at any e-commerce, or it ended up with the end user, that traceability and that whole aspect of having a unique identifier got lost. Now, with so many different carriers, so many different ways of embedding these labels, they can actually stay through the end of life for every item, which means now we've extended that whole functionality from cradle to grave, basically. Which means that, accumulated life cycle data, authenticating products, routing end of life decisions afterwards, figuring out where you can get together with a group of people to go running who have the same type of shoe that you have. I mean, that's where this connectivity has become, well, essential to not only continue sales, but also guarantee that that smart label is actually an asset moving forward, because it may generate additional sales. It may generate interest in upselling of a different product. It got a second life, basically.
And to couple that, Tom, what you're talking about is really consumer based. Also, things like tires, cradle to grave. Tires have RFID tags in there now that are telling you the life cycle, they're being registered, who owned those tires, what happened to those tires, regulatory issues, certainly recalls, those kinds of things are becoming more and more predominant in the food space, right? So smart labeling is just going to continue to grow in our world to be a vital aspect of it.
Yeah, and it has to do with the amount of data, basically, with all the regulation, PPWR, DPP. These are things that before, with the 48 character space on a traditional barcode, it's just impossible to do this. Now you can actually start adding so many more features that will either fish out information from an existing data set, or what AI can do is actually give, again, context to the label. Just by looking at the label, you can see where okay, it looks like a shipping label because it looks like there's alphanumeric and it looks like an address, then there's a long barcode at the end. This is all contextual data, which is critical in AIDC.
Definitely, and we are seeing several advancements on this development, especially for get this kind of information traceability in a real-time era. We are seeing, for example, the Sunrise 2027 project that GS1 is running to have this, to have this digital product passports and in a global scale, migrating from the traditional barcode that we had to this one that would enable like this kind of data that we probably would need in the future. We need in the future. So I think it's time. Yeah, this conversation is going really good, and I think it is time to include another question that we received from the public, and it's regarding specifically this: how does AI impact barcode quality, and will barcode quality become more important, less important, or not important at all in this AI-driven retail environment. What do you think, guys?
I think it's going to continue to be a more important, most important, I would almost say, right? So as we have said several times, it's all about the quality of what we're seeing, whether that's a barcode or an image or a smart label, or reading that RFID information. But it's the garbage in, garbage out conversation again. It's still going to be vital important, even though we can scan things and read things that we couldn't do 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Our imaging is getting better and better here at Peak Technologies. We do a lot of machine vision, and some of the stuff that they can do is miraculous, I would say, right? And using machine vision and AI and supplement things that maybe perhaps, hey, there's a bit missing here or there. Those things can happen, but then you have to learn to trust that data with the AI. So it's, again, that garbage in, garbage out is going to just continue to be very important.
Yes, I totally agree. And we actually at Maxim, we have a two-prong approach. The first one is on our production side. So we actually deploy, whether it's QR, 2D, RFID, it doesn't matter. We try to have some sort of an additional QC outside of just a camera registering. So we really look at the quality of the barcode. We look at what grade the barcode get. We look at dead zones. We look at all the parameters that make a barcode and give it a rating. On the other side, barcodes are still in the market, which means that they are the sort of the bottom of the barrel when it comes to automatic identification. If a barcode is broken in any way, most scanners will fail it. They will basically, if they cannot read the quiet zone and go through the barcode, big bar, little bar, big bar, little bar, and end up at the end, they won't do it. AI has the ability to actually look at a damaged barcode and fix it. That means it will actually figure out whether it's by using optical character recognition and reading the human readable part and then reverse engineering the barcode, or figuring out where the barcode is scratched and on the image inside the system, filling that data so that the barcode reads properly. These are all things that can be achieved now that before, if a barcode was bad, it didn't work.
It was not readable.
It was not
Yeah,
readable.
yeah, for
So
sure.
that tolerance of what is accepted, where there is no silver bullet for AIDC. I mean, it would be magical if we could come up with one protocol, everyone uses the same thing, and it's one label, one standard. Unfortunately, there's so many products out there that each one of them will require a tailored solution. Now, AIDC kind of brings it all under one protocol. So let's communicate so that we can have an ecosystem that can talk to each other regardless of where the items came from. I think it's allowing us to get away with a lot more lower quality with higher accuracy.
For sure. From the hardware standpoint, we are also improving the capabilities, the readiness capabilities, for example, in our scanners portfolio. As you mentioned before, Tom, the technology that we have in the scanning would be able to rebuild these barcodes that probably would be damaged. Imagine, for example, in a warehouse environment or in a retail grocery environment where the barcodes are having like some issues. The scanning technology would be able to rebuild this and read this information. So with that, we are also improving, and AI is part of this transformation, not only from the agentic capabilities, but also using AI to solve some operational issues within this AIDC data capturing scenario. So let's find the opportunities we have as an ecosystem. I would like maybe to start with this conversation around the opportunities that we are facing as an ecosystem emerging in the AI era. So let's talk about business. This era creates massive room for technology providers to grow beyond selling boxes. So we are providing solutions. We are more in this era where we are covering some outcomes for our customers. And for that, the retail sector is expected to see 25 billion in new technology-driven business models by 2027. So we have an opportunity that is being identified. And AIDC, integrated AIDC solutions, are at the forefront, facilitating collaboration among retailers, suppliers, and technology providers. With that, ecosystem partners, us, we are essential for delivering integrated solutions, addressing market needs and driving innovation. The shift from CapEx to OpEx, so the shift from hardware to managed data services, it's been important in the retail area right now. So this question is for both of you, and it's just, where are the new blue ocean use cases for partners in this ecosystem that we currently have in this AI era?
You want to begin, Tom?
Certainly. I think it's a very broad question, because I think it really depends on whether you're in the production side, into the supply chain side, into warehouse logistics. And each one of these can have sort of their own AI-driven benefit, so to say. These systems are so connected that it's really hard to put one sort of description, because each one will look for its own benefits or values that it's trying to pull out of the system. So I think it would have to be a case by case to really properly answer, because it depends on the industry, depends on, I don't want to, it would be unfair for me to give you a straight out answer without knowing all the elements involved. I know it's a kind of a shady answer, but I'd hate to commit to something without knowing all the moving pieces, and there are a lot of them.
There is a lot of them, and especially in the retail side with all different kinds of sensor technology, as we've been talking about today, whether that's machine vision or RFID or traditional barcodes. I don't know that there's a whole lot of new blue ocean, but I think there's a lot of use cases with AI sitting on top of that, and analytics that perhaps not everybody is recognizing. We'll talk about very traditional things in retail, right? So omni store, being able to ship from the store, people going online, buying online, pick up in the store. All of this is really important. And those of us that live in this world understand that. But every time your neighbor complains that they went to the big box store and it said it was there and it's not there, you know why, right? You know why. You know why that didn't happen. Certainly the years of COVID aspirated that. I personally, I don't have an example to tell you I went to a store and it wasn't there. I had multiple things delivered to my home in duplicate. And then when I called the store and said, you did this, you sent me this already. And they say, well, we don't know what to do. You get to keep it. So just thinking about the bottom line of things that went out the door that shouldn't have gone out the door, or for that customer experience, you're showing up and it's not there, or you're waiting for a delivery that says, I'm going to get it to you the next day. And more frequently, actually, I've been seeing this, that, hey, it's supposed to be there on Tuesday, but it's going to be delayed because it probably wasn't where it was supposed to be when they went to go pick it. So you can think about it that way. In the retail world, it is becoming so vital, because the way consumers want to consume their products is changing very, very quickly. Again, even since COVID, we've switched a lot. Personally, I don't go to the grocery store. My groceries are delivered. And so when I go online and buy it, and if it's not there, I'm shifting to a different grocery store where I know that they always have what I need.
And this is key in terms of guaranteeing the customer service and the customer experience that you have from the store that you purchase is the same service you have online and the same service that you will have in the in-store interactions you probably have. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with this. I would like just to add something regarding these use cases, as you mentioned, probably not blue oceans, because these would be issues that we are facing in retail for several years. But everything regarding cold chain monitoring and circular economy, all these sustainability regulations we have across the globe, and also some concerns that we as customers we have. This is becoming also an important part and an important opportunity for the AIDC market, for example, to develop solutions across temperature control, expiration dates with these 2D worlds, gathering more data from expiration dates, dynamic pricing, but also reducing the food waste by reducing prices in a real time, depending of the stock that we currently have on the shelf. So these are high growth areas. And this is just for putting you some examples in the retail space. But as Tom mentioned, probably we need to go deep into the current needs for the retailers as well to identify other blue oceans within their operations. But yeah, it's really good to see how we as AIDC technology can improve the operation in several parts from the retail space. So now let's talk a bit about the partnership. So let's hear from you who are leading the way in collaborative success stories, demonstrating the real impact of the partnerships and the ecosystem within the real cases we have in retail. So I'm delighted to facilitate this discussion with Pete, with Kelly, with Tom, and Maxim. Let's look at how this works in the real work area. So Kelly, you handle the how, Tom, you handle the what. And collaborative projects have resulted in a 30% increase in automation adoption among retailers, with ecosystem partnerships cited as key driver for scaling identification and labeling solutions. Can you share some stories around what you have identified in the retail space where moving to real-time AIDC fundamentally change a client or a retailer's bottom line?
Well, certainly I can talk about some use cases, on the piggyback of our previous question here that we were discussing. When you're talking about inventory on the shelf, and maybe at a regional level, and you're deciding how much, that replenishment cycle with AIDC and AI, we're seeing that happen quicker, easier, faster. That data is more accurate. You're being able to predict outages, right? 4th of July is coming up. I need more soda on the shelf. Those kind of conversations are being facilitated easier. It's not just somebody putting their thumb in the air going, hey, I think, Kelly's going to show up because she's having a big party that we better put more soda on the shelf. Those are the kind of the real world things that are so important. The throughput going through, the stocking in the store, allowing to shift the inventory from the front of, the back of the store to the front of the store, putting that right in front of the consumer's view. Those kind of conversations are more easily done with AIDC and AI.
Definitely.
And I think AIDC has allowed us to move that the analysis of our supply chain past, or it has moved it earlier into the supply chain. Before, it used to be a DC that used to get the first item level AIDC type of relationship, where they would have tunnels, they would scan the product, and they would say, okay, at the DC, this is what we've accepted. We've been able to actually move this onto the production floor, which means we now have tunnels where we work with customers who pack things into boxes. There's a purchase order and it says you're supposed to put 100 socks into this box. We then run it through a tunnel. AIDC validates physical count of how many physical socks there are in there. Well, for those inquisitive, it actually reads the RFID. So if the RFID is not on the socks, but let's assume that it's actually counting units, and it says you only have 98 units in the box, and the system is expecting 100, you get a yellow light that says replenish to or quarantine it, send it to the back. This is what we've been able to actually solve, and that accuracy has drastically improved what Kelly mentioned, which is that automatic reordering cycle, min-max. A lot of times an ERP system will take a PO and accept that as the Bible. So it says 100, so I'm going to deliver 100. ERP system says, oh, Tom, you have 100 to sell, when physically you received 98. When it comes to replenishment, if your system still thinks you have 2 pieces left, but you physically have no pieces left because initially it was 98 versus 100, your system will never replenish, and that causes issues. The worst thing with AIDC is if you're assuming it's working, And then all of a sudden, somewhere in the supply chain, you find out it's not. The repercussions are almost like trying to push a car uphill with square wheels. Now, you can do it. Eventually, you'll be able to push that car up that hill, but it will take so many resources and so much time, and it'll basically break the system that it becomes financially not viable. So it's better to actually throw these things out of the supply chain, regardless of the value. Sometimes it could be, things that where the ASP is $500 a piece. But the cost of trying to fix that is so big and disrupts everything else that it's better to actually put it aside and continue. So these are costly mistakes. And on the front end, on the back end from Maxim's side, we try to deploy anything and everything wherever we can to make sure that, well, the accuracy is there and that the context of the label is also understood.
And
Yeah, and
piggybacking off of what you were saying, Tom. So, at the big box distribution centers, that's what they're doing. They're tunneling, they're reading that RFID, they're auditing. But now what's really exciting for us in this space is we're seeing those suppliers that are shipping in there. They want to do an audit before it goes out their door. So they're validating,
Chargebacks.
yeah, we are shipping what we said we're shipping. So,
Sure.
so we're starting to eliminate some of those chargebacks, which for a consumer, right, there's a cost to all this, and it ends up in the cost of our products.
Of course.
So the more we do these of things for the supplier base to the DC to the front of store, understanding, making sure that inventory is really there and it is what it is, it's going to continue to be so important.
Yeah, lower
yeah,
total cost of ownership and increased margins. That's what this is driving.
it is true, and we have several opportunities on that side, just keeping the customer experience we offer, but also keeping the margins we need through eliminating these operational inefficiencies that you are mentioning on this. But thinking, for example, in formats with high speed environment like fulfillment centers or other retail areas, I would like maybe just to ask you this, Tom, quickly, because probably you responded before some parts of this question, but it's just how does a smart label design change the way the automation hardware, like for example, the technology that we in Honeywell performs in the high speed environment that I am mentioning before?
Sure. We can optimize, simulate, optimize again, correct, optimize, check again. So we can basically literally in the back demo or run scenarios of what this label would read, how this label would read, the orientation on the box. There are many things that we can actually improve from where we were 10 years ago. And that has to do with the hardware that's deployed, the protocols, the speeds. Remember that anytime you enter AIDC, for many, it becomes a bottleneck, or in their head, it becomes a bottleneck because they're saying, okay, so I'm doing all these things and then I funnel into one. And if there's any type of a slowdown in that read, write, report, show me a dashboard event, that will impact every single production line because you're funneling everything into one. So it's critical to optimize that not only based on what you're doing, but also take a look at where that label is handled afterwards and see if there's any tweaks, any maybe layout changes. Maybe the size of the barcode needs to be bigger. Maybe it needs to be smaller. Maybe the QR code needs to be on the box end and on the 45-degree angle end so that there is no orientation issues. There are so many things that we can do that we weren't doing before, but now we can simulate it. So we're much
For
smarter.
sure. For sure. And there is a clear demand for providers who can offer this kind of collaborative, scalable solutions, enabling new businesses and also expanding the reach within the retail sector, definitely. So yeah, finally, we are going into the end of this rich conversation we are having today. So let's have a next step. So as we reflect on these collaborative successes, let's conclude with actionable insights and steps for ecosystem partners in retail. AIDC definitely is the foundation. Without accurate machine-readable data, AI is just a parlor trick. To win in this execution area, you need a resilient ecosystem and breaking these data silos that probably retailers would have into their operations. Retailers who prioritize AIDC and ecosystem collaboration can report a 22% improvement in operational resilience and customer satisfaction. So with that, AIDC remains the foundation of high quality data for AI-driven retail. Collaboration among partners like Maxim, PIC, and also several ones that would be into a AIM association is vital for smarter, faster, and more resilient operations. And so with that, I have a final question for both, and is how can we position ourselves as enablers for retail transformation? We used to work on this every day in our lives, every day in this kind of conversations we have with these audiences, but also with customers, with partners in the trade shows. We always are working for this retail transformation, but how can we position into that, guys?
So I think it was important when we talked about this webinar that we discussed this, because we believe that in our ecosystem, there's a lot of confusion about why. Why do we need the three of us on this call to implement? And the reality is nobody can do it alone. We all have our expertise. We all have, understanding of the industry, and we've all seen a lot of things. So, here at Peak Technologies, we're the kind of the quarterback. So we're making sure we're pulling in the right partners for the solution for your actual end user process that makes sense for you. And then, when we were talking about smart labeling, I focus on RFID, but my love is labeling. So understanding, as Tom was saying, where does that label need to go? Do you need 2 labels on a product? Does it need to go up or down? Those are things that everybody's going to think about. And as an integrator, as Peak, as the integrator, pulling in those experts to make sure you're having that conversation is really vital. And that's why you want to work with an integrator who has those relationships, who has those software relationships, those labeling relationships, hardware relationships, to be able to build the right solution for you. Nobody can do it alone.
Yeah, and all I can add to that is that it's not as complex, but it requires individual stakeholders who know their part. And you have 2 options. You can go out there and reinvent the wheel and do it on your own, or you can go to the people that have actually been there, done that, and know how these systems work together. Because remember that it becomes an ecosystem. These are not individual silo projects. These things have to hand over data, be interoperable, talk to each other, have the same protocol. These are things that for one company to have all the expertise, it's a rare thing. So usually you get the subject matter experts to actually put their 2 cents in, and then all of a sudden 1 and 1 equals 5, because you've been able to leapfrog that whole learning curve from people who have, experienced it and know where the pitfalls are.
You want somebody who's done this before. You don't want to learn how to fly, right? You want somebody who's done this before. We know where the landmines are. We've seen things. We know people. We know people have seen things. I would call Tom absolutely for, hey, I've got this label problem. Help me. Have you ever seen this before? That's the ecosystem that you need to drive your solutions.
For sure. And from my side, I would say before starting with AI implementation, I would like just to read this sentence that we have on this slide, because it's really important to ask before doing this, that we are not just, or maybe our customers would not just buy a scanner, they would need to invest in a data strategy. And the idea is to reach out to this ecosystem to audit data health first, before your next AI rollout. It's really important to send this message to our customers to get the best of this kind of implementations, but also to guarantee data accuracy, AI-driven retail with a purpose and with the results that we are expecting to have on this. So now, thank you, Kelly, Tom, for your time, for this important conversation around AI in retail. I think it was really good for me as well to have your inputs on the scalable solutions that you offer from your companies and from your experiences and backgrounds as well. So Bethany, I think we have some minutes just to respond some questions from the audience.
Yes, we're going to get into the Q&A session. We have a little bit of time to answer some of the audience questions. If you have a question, you can drop it in the Q&A application at the bottom of the screen. First, we have one that was submitted through the registration page. Can transparency around product freshness for e-commerce become a standard expectation as AI adoption increases?
The answer is it has to.
It's a must.
I mean, it's a great question, but at the end of the day, if you can automate the expiration date, so in other words, have some sort of a device where you literally walk up to the fresh meat section and use your camera. And in the camera, all you're looking at is fresh food, and you're scanning it. And based on triangulation of where the QR code or a previous scan, it physically knows where the item is. It now knows it at item level, and it could put a red marker physically as you're moving your camera around that part of that image to say you need to pull this because this mincemeat is bad. I mean, the answer is definitely, and AI will be a critical piece in making that work.
All right, and then another question that we have, can smart labels gain a second life through AI applications, especially smart labels that combine dual NFC, HF, UHF technologies, or integrate with digital product passports?
I think we're seeing a lot of conversation around that. Certainly, as Tom was describing, using a camera and perhaps a camera on your smartphone, I think there's going to be a next generation of smartphones where we're going to see the ability to read NFC consistently. And so then that brings that data to that consumer level. So similar to using a camera in the meat section, I can also use my phone to read an RFID tag and know its birthplace, know where it came from, know its life cycle. More data, more data, more data. And as consumers, I'm a huge fan of AI. I don't know about y'all, but before I buy something, I'm using AI to do some research now, and we're going to continue to see that. So yes, UHF and HF as well as AI will continue in our world to be more important.
Yeah, and also from the hardware perspective, I think we are also improving our mobile computers to enable with several technologies that you mentioned in the question. So with that, we should be able to provide this all-in-one solution into just one device, just to get these capabilities into
I think in the
technology.
future, the biggest problem right now is we're actually using two different systems for let's say life cycle management of the product. We use UHF traditional in the RFID sense up until the DC until it's sold, and then we try to do some sort of consumer engagement with a QR code or NFC. The problem with these things is they're not compatible with RFID. Now, Qualcomm is actually aggressively discussing, finding a way to standardize this. So become sort of the aim for how phones interact in a contactless way. And one of the ideas is to actually extend RFID functionality across the board. So your near field interaction with a product would possibly be using RFID, which means now we've lowered total cost of ownership. Because remember, anytime you add more functionality to a label in the form of an additional etched aluminum and a chip, that there's a cost. I mean, back in the days, we used to say tinstaffel. No such thing as a free lunch. And that's basically what this is. You want all this functionality, but the cost will increase. So if you can now bring everything down, including devices that are native to reading RFID, that will be the next sort of change in a much wider adoption of making that label be much, much smarter. Because right now, the only thing that's holding it back is cost.
Sure. So, Bethany, is there any other questions you have on the board for us, or?
We had one question that came in through the chat. Any thoughts on demand for color RFID labels?
I have a quick answer, and then I'll let Tom answer since this is really his play. We're seeing more color. RFID, let's call it 10 years ago, when this really started to take back off for the third time through that big box retailer that we all know. We're just seeing black and white labels, black and white labels. It was just be compliant, print a barcode, and get this RFID on my product. Future state things that I've seen very recently are in the supply chain, in the warehousing, where they want colored labels. Specifically, there was a project we went on, and they wanted a colored label because there's so many labels on the box. They want that label to be colored so they know what they're looking for. Even though we're RFID reading it, there's still a need to know that that label is on there. So we're seeing use cases like that, work in process use cases, that they're still using color for different zones in their warehousing or different days of the week. So as we move a little bit away from retail and into that other space, we're seeing color, but I bet Tom's going to talk about prime labeling and color also now.
Yes, exactly, Kelly. So we actually at Maxim, we have two types of products. So one product is what we call the plain white program, which is exactly what Kelly just mentioned. Bare minimum, plain white label, black thermal transfer or a laser print, really keeping the cost down. Last year, we printed 2.2 billion labels in total. And if you can lay a cost aspect over this, so one label will be at half a cent and the other one will be at 4 cents, you can see the financial implications if you start going color. So wherever possible, if it's just an adhesive label that needs to go on a product, usually that will be a black and white. Now we have other customers that have an integrated label, which means the face of the label is actually color. It has all the details. It's actually full graphic CMYK artwork. And then there's an embedded label underneath it. So that means that the whole footprint of the label is actually the size of whether it's, think of a Rubbermaid trash can, where it's a nice big fat label. Actually, underneath it, we put an inlay, which means you get the same functionality, but that would not be aesthetically pleasing if we decided to put a plain white RFID label or any printed label in black and white on top of their artwork. Most of the marketing departments would come back and say, no, you're stealing our real estate. So there's two options. Again, plain white is probably more than half of the use cases. For those that have high volume and already have some sort of a label they put on it, they would try to go integrated. The last thing I'll add is there are companies within the apparel and footwear space that use color for size, which means regardless of what they're doing, it's a plain white program, but on top they need a size color reference. And that's very consumer friendly. Yes, it is costly.
Great. So with that, thank you. Thank you guys for your time today for this conversation. I think it was rich. We covered several topics around what is happening with AI and AIDC as a part of it. Just sharing our contact information with all of you. If you are interested in reaching out to us for any particular question, any need that you probably have, any opportunity that you can drive with us as well, it's important to start this discussion. So for that, let's continue working together to drive smarter, faster, and more resilient retail operations through AIDC and this collaborative innovation that we need into our industry. So with that, thank you so much for being with us into this webinar. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Aim and Bethany for the support. Let's keep this conversation going.